All right, you guys, welcome here. It's Walter Rahim here. We're interviewing Coach Greg White today from Big Shots Elite Basketball Camp. How's it going today, Greg White?
It's going terrific.
All right, excellent. So I know you're a very busy person. What I wanted to do now is I wanted to take some time just to catch up with you, see what's been going on, and hear a little bit more about Big Shots and what you're doing for these athletes. Man, I know it's a big deal, and a lot of our viewers want to know exactly what's going on. So can we jump right into it?
Right. I've just been traveling the entire summer, just promoting Big Shots Elite Basketball Camps. I've been going to various Big Shots tournaments. I've met so many parents, so many kids. It's just been an incredible ride thus far this summer. And, I'm headed to a tournament here tonight, and I'm excited about that. And obviously meeting some terrific young prospects who have great potential.
A lot of people, they heard the name Greg White, and I know you're very aggressive with your marketing. I know you're one of the biggest, would get your name out there. So who exactly is Coach Greg White? Like, who is it? Why should you be listened to?
Well, obviously, I'm from Mullins, West Virginia, country boy at heart, but because of my opportunities with basketball, obviously I had a lot of failures as a youngster with basketball, but once I got the swing of things, my whole life changed when I was in junior high school. I came across a coach who looked me in the eye and told me I could do it. And I truly believe that gentleman, and that gentleman happens to be Mike D'Antoni, the head basketball coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. He looked at me one time, and I walked up to him and said, I wanted to be a basketball player, and he said, you can do it if you do these things. So I know the power of positive influence, and obviously pretty good basketball player through junior high, got into high school, went on to be West Virginia High School Player of the Year, went on to start at Marshall University, now in the school's Hall of Fame, still holding numerous records after a stellar career there at Marshall, being an all-league player in the Southern Conference. I jumped into coaching. At 25 years old, I was the youngest head basketball coach at a four-year college in the country at Pikeville College in Kentucky. I did not inherit a very good program, but we built a solid program. I moved on there to Marshall University, my alma mater, as an assistant. Into the University of Charleston in West Virginia. From there, I joined the winningest basketball program in the history of college basketball in UCLA, 11 national championship. When you join a program like that, needless to say, it's a tremendous education. You meet some just incredible athletes. You meet all the different personnel that are associated with UCLA. And in my whole life, my goal as a young man was to be the head basketball coach at Marshall. From UCLA, I became the head coach at Marshall, and then I came back to coach University of Charleston. I closed out my career 3 years ago, bought Big Shots Elite Basketball Camps, been out promoting those. Last year was our first year. This will be our second year. It just keeps bigger, and it keeps getting bigger and better. I love being in a position of being a positive influence to young men and being able to help kids go from where they are to where they want to be. And my message is you can do it. Yes.
Hey, Coach, you just ran across UCLA like it was a bump in the road. And, that's one of the most storied programs in college basketball history, probably the most storied program. Tell us a little bit about what it was like, being a coach there and what you learned just from an experience standpoint, from the recruitment process.
Well, obviously, having the opportunity to coach national championship athletes was just a sensational experience. Certainly, you play on the world's biggest stages. No matter where you played, it was a sellout, whether it's at home. We played at Kansas. We played at Duke. We played at Louisville. We played at Kentucky. You name it, we were there. Regardless of where we played, we sold out every building, national TV, every game. Just a sensational experience to be around the likes of guys like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Bill Walton, just on and on and on. But not just basketball athletes, but UCLA has done the cover of more Sports Illustrated ×2 than any other university in the country. So to have be a small-town kid from West Virginia to having dreamed of having a chance to play there, which never really came about, but then later on through goal setting and being committed to what I wanted to be about, I was able to be on that coaching staff and be a part of that program. It was I just can't even begin to tell you what it was like. Just first time I walked down the court, the chill bumps. It was just an incredible run. But I guess the greatest thing that came from it, I was on a part of the championship team while I was there, as well as just met so many people that have been incredibly meaningful relationships that have benefited me from the time I met those people. And I just have to say it was just an amazing experience. Still is.
So we go from UCLA to Marshall University. I know there's some stops off in between, but we're talking your first major Division I head coaching job at Marshall University. Tell us about that. You know, what was the recruiting process like? What was the atmosphere like? You know, really being at the helm, you know, running the team from the top as head coach of the Division I Marshall University.
Well, having the opportunity to coach at Marshall was a great thrill because I was recruited at Marshall. I had a scholarship offers to Wake Forest, Clemson, Notre Dame, West Virginia University, and I chose Marshall because I had the opportunity to play. I wanted to play, not sit on the bench and watch. So I went to Marshall, had a great run there. We sold our home court 65 straight home games, tremendous atmosphere, just a great run. And to think 32 years after playing at Marshall, I'm still selling out basketball camps in West Virginia. It's just, it's really a credit to the opportunity that existed for me there at Marshall. But, you know, having the chance to coach there, I wanted to reestablish the graduation rates. I wanted to recruit great players. I think without question we had some of the greatest recruiting classes 7 years I was there in the history. The only guy to play professional basketball in the last 30 years is Tamar Slay, one of our recruits from Marshall. He's a young man from Beckley. So needless to say, we were able to accomplish a lot of, you know, really tremendous goals and really impact a lot of great young people. And it was just really a very rewarding experience. But like everything, you know, that experience came to an end, and then I moved on to another coaching job at the University of Charleston, also a great school. And even though you're not coaching the primetime Division I athlete, you're still coaching some awfully good players who certainly had the ability to play Division I, but for whatever opportunity, they land on the Division II stage, which for them is just as meaningful.
Okay, you know, Greg, I know right now this is great, the background, hearing the story past, UCLA, Marshall, All-State player. But I know right now the listeners, they want to know, you know, what can they do to try to mimic, you know, just, you know, similar success for themselves and for their kids. And I know one of the things that you're really passionate about is your personal why. And you always challenge a person to identify their why, and you always give them your story behind why you were so motivated to do the things that you do from the Kent business. You know, so can you tell us a little bit about this whole, you know, what's your why concept, and then, you know, what is your why? What motivates you every day to go out there and do the things that you're doing, Coach?
Well, obviously, I think, you know, from the day that someone convinced me to commit my goals to paper, I became a meaningful specific versus a wandering generality. I think to make it big in anything, whether it be basketball, whether it be medicine, or just the game of life, I think you've got to, you know, determine what your passion is. Then once you determine what your passion is, in this instance basketball, you know, it's easily to chase a basketball dream for me. When I was a young man and a youngster, my goal was to reach high heights as a player. Then as a coach, my goal was to win championship. Now I'm no longer coaching on the sidelines as far as college athletics, but I'm motivating kids. I'm taking kids from where they are, which is on this side of the bridge, and trying to get them to cross the bridge into the world of being a college scholarship athlete. There's nothing, I can't imagine a fraternity being stronger and better than being a part of a college sports team. So my goal is to help kids and parents, you know, go from where they are to where they want to be. You can be who you want to be. You can go where you want to go if you know how to get there. It's like anything. You have to have a roadmap. And as parents, sometimes kids will tune their parents out, and that's where the power of the word coach comes into play. I told you my story of someone looked at me telling me, you can do it, and I believed it. And I'm just really big on telling kids they can do it and convincing them. The biggest thing I try to drill into kids' minds is you cannot reach someone else's goal. It's got to be your goal, and you've got to commit to that goal, and you've got to write that goal down. You've got to put it in places where you can see it daily. I had my goal written down in my sock drawer. I had it on my mirror. I had it on my notebook. I had it on my dashboard in my car. And really and truthfully, the times in my life where I've committed my goals to paper and I've been truly committed to my goal, I've been able to, for 99.9% of the time, reach those goals. Now, I had a goal to play in the NBA. That goal never, came about. But it wasn't because I wasn't attempting to get there. but everyone hits their ceiling in sports, and we all know that at some point, basketball, sports, football, whatever it is, your game, comes to an end. And I was fortunate enough to be a coach. I'm still a coach at heart. I work with a lot of kids individually. At these camps that I have, I build personal relationships, lifetime relationships, and I'm in the business of motivating and convincing people that they can become great basketball players and end up on a college scholarship. Because a college scholarship is a magic carpet ride that puts you in a position to be incredibly successful once you leave the game and you move out. Being able to win a big game is like being able to go into an interview room with the CEO, whether it be male or female, and convince the person across that oak desk that you need to be the person that they hire. And I just think there's not a greater feeling in the world from playing sports. I think the thing I learned from sports, college sports especially, I learned to get up just as fast as I got knocked down, because sports are like a game of life. The ebb and flows up and down and up and down, and every day's not a great day. But obviously your goal is to make it a great day. Regardless of the adversity, you've got to fight through it. And certainly that's what I try to be about in these camps with Big Shots Elite, just taking kids that really aren't sure and looking at kids that are really questioning and say any goal is possible if you're truly willing to commit the effort, understand what you have to do to get there, and become a meaningful specific versus a wandering generality.
Okay, so you laid out a lot of groundwork, and that really is a perfect segue now into what we're going to go into. And this is the how-to segment. And you promised that you're going to lay out some specific steps and a specific roadmap towards helping athletes get recruited. So before we get into exactly how to get recruited, let's look at what would you say the main reasons are. And I know you have these two particular ones that you like to talk about at your camps and when you do your public speaking. But why is it that athletes are not getting recruited?
Well, it's really pretty simple. It's really one of two things. It can't be anything else. When you really think about it, if a kid is not getting recruited, he's not schooled on the fundamentals, meaning he's not good enough at the specific fundamentals of the game, or he doesn't have a specific position, or he hasn't spent enough time in the gym, so meaning he's not good enough, or he's good enough, but the basketball world hasn't discovered him yet. That's one of the two reasons. Go ahead.
Okay, so real quick, just to reiterate it. Number one, either they're not good enough with the fundamentals, or number two, the basketball hasn't been made aware of them. When you say they're not good enough, are you saying this guy are you saying they're just bad, or are you saying that they haven't identified a specific position to become good? When I can imagine a lot of parents when they hear that, your son's not getting recruited or their daughter's not getting recruited because they're not good enough, they can take that as an offensive. Can you just elaborate a little bit more on what you mean when you say they're just not good enough with the fundamentals of the game? What do you mean?
There's 1,900 colleges. That's a lot of colleges out there recruiting student athletes. There's over 6,000 college basketball coaches. There's 5 divisions: Division I, Division II, Division III, NAIA, and junior college. So literally opportunities exist. And for every kid that gets recruited, there's 25 just like him that don't get recruited. Well, how do you go from being one of the 25 that aren't getting recruited across the bridge to the one that gets recruited? I truly believe you've got to be ultimately really skilled in the fundamentals, meaning you've done the reps in the gym, you've paid the price, you've had a great trainer, you've stayed motivated, so now all of a sudden you find yourself good enough, and then you've got to figure out, how do I get exposed? How these college coaches find out about me? Well, every player in the history of the game, whether it be Kevin Durant, whether it be Chris Paul, Kobe Bryant, whoever else that played college. Obviously, Kobe went straight to the NBA like LeBron. But those guys are exceptions to the rule. Most kids are going to go on to the college level. So any kid that ever gets signed at a college in a given 24-hour period, in the same day, 24 hours, they go from not being recruited to being recruited. So usually someone of basketball influence picks up the phone, runs into someone that's a college basketball coach and says, hey, there's a kid over here named Kevin Durant. You need to see this guy play. Needless to say, college basketball, every college basketball team in the country, of the 19 colleges out there, have kids that are the high-end players, the superstars on the team. There's 3 or 4 of those. But the bulk of college basketball is made up of pretty good guys. And all those guys exist on a full scholarship as well. Those are guys that average 4, 3, 7, 8, 9, 10 points a game. By no means are they the superstar, but they're the role players, and they end up on a college scholarship. Now, here's an amazing statistic. 98% of the kids that play AAU basketball don't get recruited. 98%.
Wow, 98%.
So
that's a huge number.
of the 98% of the kids that don't get recruited, why don't they get recruited? Well, there's a number of reasons. But one of the biggest reasons, I've never met an AAU coach that wasn't well-meaning. I've never met an AAU coach that wasn't motivated. I've never met an AAU coach that wasn't totally committed to assisting their young players. At the same time, if you're on an AAU team and you come from your high school where you're the high school team star, but now you're playing with a group of individuals, maybe from your state, maybe from one state over, like in West Virginia, the kids from Kentucky can play on the West Virginia team, but the next state over, you can join a particular team. So now let's just say you're averaging 20 points a game at your high school, but now you're going out to get your exposure at AAU, and you're the 6th man and you're getting 3 shots a game, or you're the 8th man because you can have 10 guys on a team, and you're getting absolutely no meaningful minutes. The only time you play is when your team wins by 15 or 20. Well, needless to say, you're not going to get recruited from that. So you can sit back and say, well, I'm not going to get recruited, or you can learn the recruiting game, which many players do, and if the recruiting doesn't come to you, you can take your recruiting to the respective colleges that you're interested in. And it's not that difficult, but 98% of the kids that don't get recruited, the bulk of those kids, have no idea that they could still go play if they knew what the recruiting game was all about.
I think that's probably I think that's the biggest thing that I know you're a big proponent for, and that's letting kids or athletes know that they have options, letting the parents know that they have options. I know that, when I was coming up, and a lot of guys that I've been around and that I've trained, they believe that the only way that they can make it there was go major D1, not even mid-major. They were thinking, major D1. Can you explain to us a little bit of the differences between, high major, mid-major, and then D2? Can you just kind of break that down? I think a lot of people, they probably like how I was and how the parents and players that I'm around, they probably think the same way. Can you explain to us just some of the differences between the levels of basketball?
Well, obviously, there's 347 Division I universities out there, and they come in all shapes and sizes. Like, for instance, the University of North Carolina, they've got 30,000 students. They play in an incredibly plush arena. And right down the road is Wake Forest. There's 4,000 students on that campus. It's more of a boutique. It's much smaller. It's an elite university with great academics, just like Carolina. But again, you've got this huge university and you've got a 4,000 person university. Needless to say, at the Division I institutions, whether it be in D.C., New York, California, Colorado, all these schools have incredibly successful sports programs as well as successful graduates in every walk of life. So, that everyone's got to choose the right fit for them. Then you move into the Division II programs. The Division I schools all offer, with the exception of the Ivy League, full basketball scholarships. Division II, they use a method called packaging. I've worked in Division II, and I'm here to say that there's nothing like being on a Division I basketball court with 20,000 people screaming and cheering for their team. What excitement. Playing on ESPN, competing for the national championship, playing the NCAA tournament. But the Division II level, you're playing in smaller gyms. You're playing in front of crowds anywhere from 500 to 1,000, 300 to 500, depending on the particular university. But the most unique thing about playing at a university like that is the balance of the individual is far superior the life that you have. You play basketball a couple hours a day, probably 5-6 days a week. As soon as you walk off that court, you don't have any interviews. You flip the switch and you're a normal person. So the NCAA Division II model really focuses on having a balanced life. And then there's the Division III, which, the scholarshiping does not come from sports or basketball. It comes from academic merit. So that means if I have a son and Barack Obama, our president, has a son, and we basically apply to a particular, let's just use Catholic University where I have my camp, and President Obama's son applies for a scholarship, and mine applies, with our core classes and our board scores, meaning their SAT and our ACT, the individual between my son and Barack Obama's son, who has the highest merit based on their academics, gets the most scholarship money. There's no politics involved whatsoever. It's all academic merit-based. And again, it comes down to your ability to be a great student that determines how much money you're going to get. Now, you move into the NAIA level, I like to call that a second chance division. That's, a lot, same thing. They've got full scholarships. But a lot of kids get, play Division I, and for whatever reason it doesn't work, and they end up at these NAIA schools. And, of course, junior college is just a tremendous model. It's a 2-year school. Our kids go there really for 18 months, not 2 years, because they start, and then 18 months later, they're through with the junior college, and they've got to move on to either Division I, Division II, Division III, or NAIA level. So there's just so much that goes into it, and most kids, most parents, are like my parents. My parents were absolutely clueless to the recruiting process, but I was very fortunate. I had a coach that was well-schooled that in a 10-year stretch, he produced 30 college athlete players, 2 NBA players, so he knew the recruiting game. I learned the recruiting game through him and was able to carry that forward throughout my career. I also assisted the coaches when I was a player at Marshall in bringing athletes to campus, and on their 48-hour visit, I was always the one to host. So I was always in a recruiting mode. Then I became a college coach on the other side of the recruiting mode, but there's just so much that goes into it. And this is the greatest day in a young student-athlete's life, is when the college coach walks in the home, regardless of the level, plops the scholarship down on the coffee table and says, because of your outstanding grades, your character, and your ability to play basketball, we're offering you full scholarship. Everybody is so happy, elated, hugs, kisses, the whole deal. But in January, about 35 to 40% of the athletes that sign call home and go, Mom, Dad, I hate to tell you this, but I don't like the school I'm at. They didn't tell me it rained up here. They didn't tell me it snowed. They didn't tell me the coach was a maniac after when we didn't win. They just leave out some very important facts. And there again, if you do your homework and you know what you're doing when you visit a campus, there are no stones left unturned. And again, I'm really huge with my camps in teaching the parents and the kids what goes on in the recruiting process. The parents are already well schooled, just like I am as a parent. I'm not going to be fooled. But when you're dealing with something as specific as college recruiting, these college recruiters, they're slick. They're very slick. And they've got to be incredibly good at what they do, and they are good. But, again, the greatest day is when you get the scholarship. The toughest day is when that call comes in and Junior's telling you he's not happy and he needs to transfer. So now you've got your mom unhappy, which means your dad's going to just immediately be unhappy because your mom's going to be in his ear, and then you've got to transfer again. So you've got to get it right on the first go-around. There's no guarantees that every situation is going to turn out right, and certainly that lends the opportunities for a transfer, but you want to stay away from that transfer because you lose hours, and many kids go to transfer, and their second transfer doesn't work out, and they drop out of college. So if parents just know the deal, if they're educated on the process, they can smell a skunk from 50 miles away. At the end of the day,
Coach, I was going to say, Coach, I know one of the speeches you had, man, and this really stuck out to me because I know when I went to college, it was nothing I even considered, but you were talking about, where players get their haircuts, going to a college and not having where to get their haircut, or, not being a particular type of, atmosphere that's more conducive to that person performing at a high level. And I know that, a lot of times when you do your speeches that you have this checklist, this really, really comprehensive checklist that every parent can use to identify the right college.
Through my 28 years of coaching experience, I give the kids at my basketball camp the 64 questions they need answered. I call them the Big 64. They need answered before they pick their college. The price of admission in my camp is worth those 64 questions, because once you get to 64 questions, now you're armed with the knowledge as a parent. You go on the college campus, and a couple of the questions would go down like this. Do they have my major at the college? Well, most colleges are going to have your major, but this is where you get in trouble. Let's get into the depth of some questions that can really shake parents up. For instance, Johnny's going into his junior year, and Johnny blows out his knee, and everything looks like it's going to be okay. But after he's had his surgery, does his rehab, it's determined that Johnny is through playing. He can no longer play. Does the kid keep his scholarship, or does he have to pay for it the rest of the way out? Well, you better get the answer to that question up front, because some coaches are going to look you in the eye and say, you're on your own. But a good character coach is going to say, certainly we'll pay for it. And you never hope it never comes to that, but every year scenarios on college campuses come to that. Let's just move into a really important area for college student athletes. Let's move into their dietary needs. Obviously, all these college athletes burn a lot of calories. They need to eat. When you go to the college campus, you get room on a scholarship, board, books, and tuition. Well, when you walk into a college cafeteria, they have a 9-meal plan. They have a 12-meal plan. They have a 15-meal plan. Or they have a 19-meal plan. What 19 meals mean? You get breakfast, lunch, dinner 5 days a week. On the weekends, you get brunch and you get dinner. But needless to say, that's what most kids need. A lot of kids sign scholarships not asking the questions, and all of a sudden they get to the college and they've got the 9-meal plan. So now all of a sudden mom and dad, because they didn't know what they were doing, have to shell out a ton of money. And then these universities now are cutting edge. You get the 19-meal plan, and you can use 7 or 8 of your meals in the local restaurants there in the community, because these universities cut deal with the local restaurants, realizing the students don't want to kill themselves and eat every single meal in the dormitories or in the caf, so they're able to go out to these local restaurants. Let's just move forward to the social part. You know, what is the breakdown between the different nationals on a particular college campus? Well, that becomes incredibly important if you're in a Royal campus and, you know, you find yourself in a situation where there are not a whole lot of people like you there. So at the end of the day, all these things, you know, are very, very important when it comes to determining what college you get in. You never really think about once you sign, but is the coach going to be there my entire career? Is he on the ropes with his record? Is he about to lose his job? Because that's pretty important. Because there's nothing worse than having a transfer. And then, you know, all of a sudden you get a new coach. You might be in favor with the new coach. You might not be in favor. So I think it begs, make sure that the kid and the parents are in a situation where they ask the coach, are you going to be here for my entire career? Now, needless to say, if a college coach is making $75,000, they get offered $1 million job, they're going to take the job. No different than if you're at college and you're playing Division II, and all of a sudden the University of Kentucky comes in and offers you a ride. Guess what? You're leaving that small college and you're going to play UK. You can't blame a coach for that. But many times, parents just don't know the questions to ask. For instance, when you join the college team, are my tennis shoes going to be paid for? Well, many of these Division II, Division III schools, you got to buy your own gear. And that's just, it seems unfair, but the different levels are so different. Then there's the Division II programs that go first class. Coach is a world-class fundraiser. They're totally committed to the athletic department, and they pay for everything. And then the Division III model, you have a ton of ex-Division I players who've transferred to Division III because their academics are far more important to them than basketball. So they play basketball a couple hours a day, and then they get a tremendous education. Maybe they go into medicine, maybe they go into science, and they move out into the real world and do incredibly well for themselves based on their true goals lied with academics, and they just wanted to have some fun playing basketball. And so every level is different, but the 64 questions put you in a situation, once you have them, that at the end of that visit where you're just absolutely overwhelmed with all the opportunity, the meeting of people and the things you go through, and you're able to sit there when the coach says, do you have any questions, whether they're just kind of looking at each other. You've got these questions, maybe it's 4 or 6, maybe the mom has 4 or 6, maybe the dad has a couple, and the student athlete has a couple, and you get all your questions answers to your liking. If you get 64 questions answered to your liking, you've found your college. Needless to say, everybody wants a full scholarship, but that needs to be decided right there in that meeting, in that Q&A. So at the end of the day, everybody can walk out, be happy, There's nothing like signing a kid, bringing a kid to campus, being honest with him, parents being happy, go home, and most parents have, several kids. They can go home and concentrate on the kids are home, and the handoff is given to the college coach, and the college coach helps that young man. Because oftentimes a freshman in college, they come home a lot as a freshman, but as they move through the experience and they become sophomores and juniors, they stop going home as much because they develop a new family and they develop a new life. And every kid that goes to college goes through that transition, and then as a senior, they're ready to move out into the real world. But there's nothing quite like a kid that's been through the ups and downs of being a college athlete, been on that fraternity called college sports, and then they get the college degree and all the hugs and kisses. Now they've graduated. 6 months later, they've got a job or they're playing professional sports. They come home and everybody goes to Outback, and now all of a sudden Johnny picks up the tab. You're talking about one happy set of parents, where a young man can take care of his own finances, and that's what everybody. That's the American dream: being able to go to college, being able to go to college for free, be able to get out of college, get a great job, and have a successful life, a successful family, and just be in a situation where you're doing well for yourself. That's what it's all about.
Hey, Coach, you are hitting so many high points, man, and we can go on forever. And I'm pretty sure the parents that are listening right now and the players that are listening right now, they're probably going to be upset with me, but we do have to move forward with this because the main reason why we're here is because the Big Shots camp is on its way, right? We're a couple of days out now. I think we're about 12 days out, not exactly sure, 14 days out from the camp, and it takes place August 7th through the 10th in Washington, D.C. at the Catholic University of America. So, Coach, tell us about this. First, tell us a little bit about the camp. Tell us what's going on, and what can we expect about the camp?
Well, obviously, there'll be every level of player there. We'll have some of the best players in the country there. We'll have some pretty good players, and we'll have some kids that are just okay. But everybody comes for the same reason: to improve their fundamentals, to get the cutting-edge teachings of the fundamentals, to be motivated. So we have an outstanding staff, an outstanding training staff for injuries, those kinds of things. We hold up shop in Captain's Dorm, where all the athletes will stay. We will have a few day campers that come in from the D.C. area, but most kids will stay in the dorm with the staff. A lot of fun with that. And then every morning early, we'll start camp. We'll go through an extremely busy day, going through the fundamentals, the different stations and different phases of the game, from shooting to passing to dribbling to defense to rebounding. And then we'll certainly we'll play games. We'll have contests, 3-point contests, a one-on-one, certainly ball handling contests, all the different things kids love to do. And then we'll move into the all-important teachings, the seminars, which teaches the kids about financial aid, about the different scholarships, the different levels, the 5 different levels, Division 1, 2, 3, NAIA, junior college, and what coaches look for. Because, parents and kids don't realize when the college coach is in a gym, they're watching a specific kid. They're watching his body language. They're watching how he communicates with the coach, how he reacts to a bad call, all the little things that go into being a recruitable athlete. There's nothing that comes easy when it comes to finally being in that gym and all the, our college coach has got his 2 eyes on you, and it's your opportunity to perform or not perform. And there's nothing worse than not being prepared, understanding that bad body language can cost you your opportunity. The same would be true.
I'm going to interrupt, Coach. You said something earlier, maybe said on this call or during one of your speeches, but I believe the number was 2 of every 3 athletes who get scholarships come through Big Shots programs. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
True.
And is that a true statement?
Big Shots, the largest basketball company in the world. Big Shots tournaments have produced numerous pros, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of college players. You can look on our websites and look at our alumni, and it's just astounding the number of athletes, whether it be Cousins, the different pro athletes, the NBA players that have played in these Big Shots tournaments, and now our camps. Our camps are relatively new, but this is a specialty camp. This isn't just a basketball camp. This is a specialty camp, and you're going to learn some things in this camp you won't learn at any other camp. And the other thing, our camp's not so big. It's not 500-600 kids. We're going to have 130 kids at our basketball camp. We're going to have a great time. There's going to be a lot of teaching, a lot of learning. And at the end of the day, every kid's going to come off that camp exhausted, and they're going to jump in their car, and their parents are going to say, "How did you like the camp?" They're going to say, "I am so exhausted, but I learned so much." That's a successful basketball camp. And hopefully, if we give them the right motivation, if we give them the right encouragement, if we give them the right drills, if we encourage them, if we truly motivate them, they are no longer a wandering generality. That day, once they leave the campus, they go home, they start writing down all their goals, that meaningful process that leads to big goals being accomplished. I don't really believe that anybody just wakes up and just gets lucky and ends up in the NBA. There's all kinds of guys out there that should be in the NBA that aren't there. There's all kinds of guys that should be in the NBA there. And then there's that group of guys in the NBA that has no business being there, but they're there. And the reason they're there because they became a meaningful specific. But then once you get there, you got to stay there. Because every year there's college guys coming out that are drafted, guaranteed contracts, and so forth. But there's nothing easy about the process. So I'm really big on the whole process, making sure everybody's armed with not only the fundamentals, but the mental aspects of the game. So Big Shots basketball has been huge. And it all goes back to something I said earlier. Most kids get recruited because somebody of basketball influence picks up the phone or tells somebody, a college coach, about a kid. The college coach ventures into the gym to see him play, does the due diligence on the academics, and once those two pieces are in place, man, it's amazing.
Hey, Coach, tell us a little bit about the Big Shots recruiting program, because I know they're going to be on hand as well. Tell us a little bit about how that works.
Well, our recruiting service is, most college Division I head coaches in the country take our recruiting service where they pay, over $1,000 to have our recruiting service because of the valuable information on players that we put out there. This information is all on the Internet. Every small college coach has the ability to just get online for free and look at our information. So there's literally hundreds of people, coaches, that get on the website after the basketball camp and will scour for specific players that they're looking for. Everybody's depth chart on a given year is a little bit different. Maybe I need point guards this year. I need forwards next year. But everybody has a depth chart in their office on the recruiting board. And what we do is we supply, with our information, countless coaches, because they pay for this information. Again, small colleges get it for free. They're able to go online, check out the website, follow our recruits. The other thing, the social networks have gotten huge, whether it be Twitter, Facebook, the Lexi, all the different things that are out there, Instagram. You'll be amazed at how much stuff comes out of Big Shots Elite Camp August 7th through the 10th on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. And, again, on top of that, just all the great friendships that can be made at a basketball camp. It's way different than a tournament where you come in with 10 guys you know. You come to a basketball camp, you come in individually. And I'm just a firm believer that basketball camps can, there's a great place for tournaments. There's also a great place, many kids get discovered at a basketball camp where in a 3 or 4 day period they can be a meaningful relationship with a coach that's on hand who can pick up the phone. Someone like myself or Jeff Snyder or these AAU coaches who are some of the best in the country, second to none, who can pick up the phone and say, "Hey, I met this kid at camp, wonderful kid, wonderful family. He's got grades. This guy can go." And when a coach from one of our camps picks up the phone and does that, some magic can start happening. At the end of the day, the kid still has to be able to do it. The opportunity, the stage presents itself. But most kids, really and truthfully, welcome that opportunity. And I've always been about this, but I'm still about this now. I can't even begin to tell you my thoughts on this. But competitive greatness is being at your best when your best is needed. And most kids who truly pay the price in that moment, in that day, in that given time, when that opportunity presents itself, and the kids are either on the campus voluntarily to play in front of those coaches, or the coach makes his way to the gym because of someone made a phone call. and got in touch with the coach, said, you need to come over and see this kid. That's the way college scholarships are accomplished. There's no
hey, Coach, that's
about that.
Coach, that's huge, man. We got about 2 minutes. We got to wrap this up, man. And, you know, I wish we might have to just do a part 2 because the information is so plentiful, man. And I know the parents and the players that's listening on now, you know, they're hungry for more of it. But I mean, that's the reason why you're doing the camp. So just want to revisit the camp again. It's Big Shots Elite Basketball Camp. It's taking place August 7th through the 10th in Washington, D.C. at the Catholic University of America. How can players contact you? How can players register? I know you said you're only taking on about 130 players. We're about 14 days out, which means that you're probably pretty full. So what can a player do who really wants to make sure? What can a coach do who has 10 to 12 players that they want to bring on board? What can they do to contact you and get these guys in with such? I know it's kind of coming down to the wire now. What can they do?
Everyone knows the power of the internet. The website, they can go to bigshots.net or they can go to bigshotsbasketballcamp.com. Again, bigshots.net and go to register camps or bigshotsbasketballcamp.com. That'll lead you to my website, which is the camp website. I encourage all the parents to surf that site. Take a look on the homepage. There's a tab that says who should attend this camp. And then, of course, the all-important frequently asked questions, which has been compiled by parents. Those were the questions asked most parents for me last year, and that really has cut down a lot of my time on the phone, but has given all the parents the information to make the appropriate decisions for their children. Or they can call 304-400-4703. Again, 304-400-4703, which is my office phone, and we can get you registered that way. The best way to get signed up, though, is to go to bigshots.net, hit the camp tab, and, surf the site and go to the register button, get yourself registered. You can do that through PayPal. You can do it through the mail, whatever works best for the particular family. So I'm willing to work with everybody. I'm excited about the camp this year. It's going to be a tremendous opportunity and a lot of fun for everyone that is in attendance.
Hey, Coach, I want to thank you very much for your time. I know you're heading back from camp now. I just finished up the Nike Top 80 camp, man. You're in high demand, and we want to appreciate you for taking the time off to jump on here with us. We look forward to talking to you soon. Again, everybody, thank you for listening. This is Walter Rahim, and as always, we will be in contact. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Walter. I just want to say to everyone out there, think big, think big, think big. I look forward to seeing you at Big Shots Elite.
Thank you.